The night was humid, one of those heavy August nights when the air sat on your skin like a damp towel. Out on Route 117, where the blacktop stretched lonely and narrow through the marshland, the only light came from the moon and the occasional sweep of headlights from a passing rig. Back then, before the interstate gobbled up most of the traffic, people still used this road. But not after dark, not unless they had to. The truck that roared down that stretch around 11:47 p.m. had to. Its driver, Earl "Red" Haskins, had 3 pallets of beer clinking in the back and a delivery deadline he was already 4 hours late on. His boss at Bell's Distribution didn't care about excuses. Red had stopped for a whiskey shot or 3 at the Copper Lantern Bar in Rockport, and he was sweating booze through his shirt now, blinking against the sting of headlights that weren't there. Not really headlights anyway. "Damn bugs," Red muttered, smacking the windshield as if a smear of moths could explain away what he'd seen in the rearview. 2 bright orbs following him. Too close, too steady. No car. No engine growl dot, just the lights, hanging like eyes. Red turned the radio up. Elvis sang about a devil in disguise. Static ate the king's voice halfway through until all that poured from the speaker was a low hum. The dashboard clock, a little round thing with silver hands, ticked once, then stopped dead at 11:50. Red noticed, because when you're drunk, you notice dumb things and ignore the smart ones. He tapped it. Nothing. Then the truck shuddered, coughed, and died. Gas gauge still read half full, but the motor was a stone. Red coasted to the shoulder, gravel crunching under his wheels until the truck sat facing a crooked green sign. Mile marker 0. It leaned like a drunk against the weeds, paint peeling, numbers faded, but still legible in the moonlight. Red had driven this road near on 20 years, and he swore he'd never seen that sign before. The headlights behind him brightened, blinding in the mirrors. He climbed out, cursing, ready to tear into whatever punk was tailgating. But when he stepped down into the humid dark, boots crunching gravel, there was nothing. No car, no engine. Just the fading buzz of crickets and the far-off croak of a bullfrog. The lights were gone, but the road smelled different: burnt rubber, hot metal, and something else. Coppery, thick, like pennies under your tongue. Red stumbled a few feet, muttering. The world had gone quiet. Too quiet. Even the frogs had stopped. The only sound was his own breath, ragged and uneven, and the slow creak of his truck's suspension cooling under the night. And then he heard it. A woman's laugh. Soft at first, like it was carried from far away, but it slid closer quick as wind through tall grass. High and sharp, the kind of laugh that didn't belong out here in the swampy dark. Red turned. At first he thought it was the moon making shapes in the mist. Then he saw her. A girl standing in the road. She looked about 20, hair dark and loose around her shoulders, white dress clinging to her like it was soaked. She lifted one arm, palm open, as though asking for a ride. Her smile was too wide. Way too wide. Red's throat dried up. Every drunk thought left his head like coins shaken from a slot machine. "Ma'am," he croaked. The girl tilted her head. The headlights came back sudden, blinding, bearing down the road. Only this time they weren't behind Red. They were in front of him, barreling toward the girl. A semi, lights on high beam, no horn, no screech of brakes. Just a screaming wall of light and speed. Red shouted, staggered forward, arms waving. The truck didn't slow. It plowed through the girl with a crunch of bones, or should have. She didn't fall, didn't even move. The lights went straight through her, swallowed her up, and then were gone. Red dropped to his knees, clutching at his chest. His heart fluttered like a broken bird. When he looked up, the road was empty again. No girl, no truck. Just him and the leaning green sign, its paint flaking under the moon. The last thing Earl "Red" Haskins saw before darkness swallowed him was the mile marker. The 0 had changed. The paint peeled away as if burned, leaving only a dark smear, blacker than tar. It looked wet, looked fresh. When state police found his rig the next morning, it was sitting neat as you please on the shoulder. Gas tank bone dry. The pallets of beer untouched. Red himself slumped behind the wheel, eyes wide open, lips peeled back in a grin so stiff and wrong it made one rookie puke into the ditch. His watch read 11:50. His dashboard clock read 11:50. Every clock on him read 11:50. And the green mile marker, it wasn't there. That was the first recorded death at mile marker 0, though folks in Rockport would tell you the stories had been whispered long before. Truckers swore the road ate gas. Local teens dared each other to drive past midnight and swore they saw headlights where no car could be. By the 70s, the highway was nearly abandoned, choked by weeds, and bypassed by the new interstate. But now and again, somebody would take it. Somebody always did. And when they did, the clock stopped, the gas ran out, and the lights came. Rockport wasn't the kind of place you saw on postcards. It wasn't Camden, with its touristy harbor full of sailboats and lobster shacks with clever names. It wasn't Bar Harbor, where folks from Boston and New York flocked in the summer to eat chowder and buy overpriced t-shirts. No, Rockport was a working town. Granite quarries, some long dead and filled with black water now. A few boatyards that hadn't gone under yet. One Dunkin' that served as the town square for gossip and caffeine, depending on what you needed more. If you were born here, odds were you stayed. If you moved here, odds were you were running from something. And if you drove Route 117 after dark, odds were you never came back. At least, that's how the stories went. Most folks in Rockport didn't like talking about mile marker 0. It was one of those things like your uncle's drinking problem, or the way the quarry kids sometimes went missing in the summer. Everybody knew, nobody spoke. But on the night our story really begins, two people were about to find themselves on that road. Jesse Klein wasn't from Rockport. He was from away, as Mainers like to put it, and you could tell the second he opened his mouth. Too much New Jersey in his vowels, too quick with his hands when he talked. 35 years old and already looked tired of everything. He'd come to Rockport 6 months ago, claiming he wanted quiet. A change of scenery, he told people, though he never said from what. He rented the upstairs of an old farmhouse off Quarry Road, where the paint peeled like sunburn and the pipes rattled every time you flushed. What Jesse really wanted was to disappear. The kind of disappear that wasn't possible anymore, not with cell towers and Facebook and people who could Google your damn life in 5 minutes. But Rockport was close enough. He worked odd jobs, fixing boats, stacking lumber, hauling junk for old ladies who paid in pies and half-used bottles of whiskey. He kept his head down, except at night. Nights were different. Nights, Jesse drove. Not far, just the back roads, up past Goose River, sometimes down to Rockland, where the harbor lights glimmered. Driving soothed him, gave his hands something to do other than shake. That night, he filled up at the Sunoco on Main Street, nodded at the kid behind the counter, and pointed his beat-up Ford toward Route 117. He didn't plan where he was going. He never did. Marlene Briggs had lived in Rockport her whole damn life. Born in Penn Bay Hospital, baptized at St. Peter's, married at the town hall, divorced at the same. 43 now, hair gone more gray than brown, and hands calloused from 20 years cleaning other people's cottages in the summer. She smoked too much, swore too much, and loved her daughter more than anything on this earth. Except her daughter was gone, now moved to Boston with a boy who wore skinny jeans and smelled like patchouli. Marlene didn't blame her. Hell, she was proud. But the house on Maple Street felt like a tomb these days. She'd been drinking more since Christmas. Cheap vodka, the kind that came in plastic bottles. Her boss at the cleaning service noticed. Her landlord noticed. She noticed most of all, but noticing didn't stop a thing. On that Thursday night in July, she found herself behind the wheel of her Chevy Malibu with a cigarette smoldering in the ashtray. She wasn't sure where she was headed, maybe just driving to drive, the way lonely people do. Her headlights carved through the dark pines, and before long she saw the faded sign for Route 117. Her stomach turned. Old stories whispered from childhood. Kids daring each other to drive out past. Mile marker 0. The way Mrs. Holloway's son never came back in '89. She almost turned around. Almost. The night air grew heavy, sticky. Both Jesse and Marlene noticed it in their own cars, miles apart, but headed toward the same stretch of road. The kind of humidity that clung to your lungs, that made the world feel like it was holding its breath. Jesse's radio crackled. The Springsteen tape he jammed in there months ago suddenly warbled, the boss's voice stretching thin and metallic. He smacked the dash. Nothing. Just static, rising and falling like waves. Marlene's dashboard clock blinked 11:43, then 11:44, then froze. Her cigarette burned down to the filter without her noticing. Neither of them realized, not yet, that the gas needles on their dashboards were dropping faster than they should. The sign wasn't much to look at. Bent, leaning, numbers half faded. Most people driving in daylight probably wouldn't even notice it. But at night, with the moon slipping behind clouds and the pines pressing close, the green paint seemed to glow faintly. Jesse saw it first. His headlights splashed across the metal, and he felt something tug in his chest. Not fear, exactly more like recognition, though he swore he'd never been out this way before. He slowed, squinting. Mile marker 0. Marlene saw it 10 minutes later. Her first thought was how it looked different than when she was a kid. Taller somehow. Sharper. She told herself she was imagining it, nerves from too much vodka and smoke. Both of them drove past, engines humming uneasy. Neither of them noticed the headlights that flared in their rear views, bright and steady, though no car followed. Jesse Klein noticed the Malibu before he noticed the mile marker fading into his rear view. A pale sedan, silver maybe, headlights flicking in and out like the driver couldn't decide if she wanted them on. The car sat idling on the shoulder, hood up. A figure leaned against it, cigarette glowing in the dark. He slowed instinctively. Out here, on this forgotten strip of Route 117, it was either stop or let someone rot. He tapped his brake lights, pulled over 20 feet ahead, and killed the engine. His first thought was, I shouldn't, but he got out anyway. The woman looked up. Mid-40s maybe, hair pulled back messy, smoke curling from her lips. She squinted at him like he was a trick of the headlights. Car trouble? Jesse asked, voice carrying too loud in the still night. Yeah, or no. Hell if I know. She flicked ash, blew smoke. It just died. Gas gauge says half a tank, but it coughed like I ran it dry. Jesse smiled faintly. Funny, same thing happened to me about a mile back. That was a lie, but he didn't know why he said it. Maybe because he wanted her to feel less alone. Or maybe because he already sensed something was off and he wanted company in it. She studied him for a beat, then nodded like they were already in it together. Name's Marlene. Jesse. They shook. Her hand was rough, calloused, strong. Behind them, the road stretched in both directions, blacktop swallowed by trees. No cars, no sound but crickets. Except, even the crickets seemed quieter now. Jesse popped her hood, peered in. He knew a thing or two about engines, but this one was as ordinary as they came. No loose hoses, no smoke, no smell of burning oil. It was just dead. Try starting it again, he called. She slid behind the wheel, turned the key. The engine whined once, coughed, then gave a flat, hollow click. Battery? She asked. Doesn't sound like it. They both looked at the gas gauge. Half a tank. Needle steady. That's what mine said, Jesse muttered. Marlene lit another cigarette with shaking hands. You mean your car still runs. For now. But I saw that sign back there. Mile marker 0. You know it? Her eyes flickered. Everybody around here knows it. They stood in silence a moment, listening to the night. And the silence was wrong. Too thick. No wind in the trees, no bugs singing. Just a heavy hush pressing down. You hear that? Jesse asked. Hear what? Exactly. It started as a glow on the horizon, faint, yellow-white. Jesse spotted it first in the rear view of his Ford. Car coming, he said, relief loosening his chest. But the glow didn't grow the way headlights should. No beams cutting the trees, no engine rumble. Just two steady orbs floating closer. Marlene stepped into the road, hand raised. Hey, she called, voice carrying sharp. The lights drew nearer. Still no sound. Still no car. Then they flared blinding, white-hot, filling the road like a floodlight. Jesse shielded his eyes. Marlene stumbled back toward the Malibu. And then, just as suddenly, they were gone. The road stretched empty again, moonlight washing the asphalt. Jesus Christ, Marlene whispered. Jessie forced a laugh that died quick. Must have turned off. Where? There's no turn-off for miles. Her voice cracked on the word miles, like she derealized something Jessie hadn't yet. They were a long damn way from help. They tried her car again. Dead. They tried his. The Ford rumbled, then coughed, then sputtered out like a man choking on smoke. Jessie hit the wheel. The gas gauge slid down, needle dropping as if the tank were draining in real time. You gotta be kidding me. They sat in the cab, Marlene's smoke curling against the windshield. This road, she said finally. My brother dared me to drive it once. I was 17. Me and some friends went out past midnight, looking for ghosts. We saw lights, same kind. I never came back. You did, Jessie said, forcing a smile. Not the same way. She tapped her chest. Something stuck with me. Nightmares. Headlights in my rearview for years. I told myself it was nerves, but now. She gestured out at the empty highway. Jessie said nothing, because he'd seen things too back in Jersey. Not here, not this road, but dark corners that stayed with him. And suddenly he wondered if that was why he'd ended up in Rockport at all. Like the road had been waiting. The dashboard clock blinked 11:59, then froze. Jessie's wristwatch ticked once, stopped. Marlene lifted her phone. The screen glowed, showed 11:59, then died. Battery bar still half full. Time had stopped. They sat in silence, listening to the dead night. And then, faintly, came the sound. Not crickets, not frogs, not wind. A woman's laugh. It slid down the road like fog, high and sharp, too close and too far at once. Jessie felt his chest tighten. Marlene's cigarette trembled between her fingers. The headlights flared again, this time closer, right behind them. Jessie and Marlene tried everything short of pushing the cars off the road. Wrenches, jumper cables, even pouring gas back and forth between tanks. Nothing. The Ford's engine whimpered, coughed, then died. Marlene's Chevy refused to start again. The night pressed in closer. Trees leaned like black arms, shadows pooling into shapes. Every so often, the headlights would flare and the mirrors steady. Bright, following, but no engine sounds, no reflection of tires. Maybe we should just walk? Marlene suggested, her voice trembling. Walk where? Jessie said, though the idea was already crawling into his mind. There was nothing but swamp and pines, miles in every direction. No houses, no streetlights, no other cars. Only the highway that stretched on forever, as if it didn't end. He felt something in his chest tighten. A primal warning. This road was alive in a way it shouldn't be. They left the vehicles side by side and started walking. Gravel crunched underfoot, and the sound seemed louder than it should, echoing into the black void around them. Marlene shivered, pulling her jacket tighter. Do you feel it? She asked. What? That we're being watched. Jessie didn't answer. He could feel it too. Eyes in the darkness, bright points in the shadows, like the road itself was staring. Every step forward made the headlights flare again in the mirrors. Not approaching, not receding. Just there, waiting. The smell came next. Copper, iron, gasoline, but also something rotten, decaying. Jessie gagged, pulling his collar over his mouth. Marlene whispered a curse under her breath. And then the laughter began again. Soft, playful, high-pitched, echoing from all directions at once. As they trudged down the highway, Jessie noticed a strange feeling in his head. Memories half-formed, half-familiar. He remembered a child, alone, sitting on the shoulder of this very road. A woman screaming, tires skidding. A smell of burnt rubber, but he had never been here before. Jessie? Marlene's voice snapped him back. You okay? Yeah, he said. But his mind refused to let go of the images. The dead eyes, the twisted smile, the green mile marker 0 sign, glowing faintly. Marlene stopped walking, gaze fixed on the sign in the distance. It's right there. It wasn't right. The sign had changed. Numbers sharper, edges blacker than they had been when she first saw it. And beneath the 0, dark streaks glistened like wet paint or blood. Jessie and Marlene froze. Behind them, the headlights flared brighter. They didn't move. And then they did. A single pulse of movement. Too fast, too fluid. like something sliding across the blacktop. "Run!" Jesse shouted. They sprinted into the woods beside the road, boots slipping on wet leaves and mud. The laughter followed, not carried by wind, not human. It echoed, warped, layered like 1,000 voices at once. Branches tore at their clothes. The smell of copper grew stronger, metallic and cloying. Marlene stumbled, fell, and Jesse grabbed her arm. They kept going, running blindly, leaving the cars behind, leaving the road. But the headlights remained, constant, hovering, following. After what felt like hours, though it couldn't have been more than minutes, they stopped to catch their breath. They were soaked, scratched, panting, and yet, the road was still behind them. The cars were gone. The mile marker was gone. The headlights were still there, just past the edge of the tree line. But there was no car, no engine, nothing tangible, just light, watching, waiting. "This isn't real," Marlene whispered, tears streaking her face. "It can't be real." Jesse shook his head. "It's real enough. That road, it feeds on us, on the panic, the fear, the mistakes. You can't just drive past it and escape." The realization hit them both. They were trapped. Not just physically, but mentally. Mile marker 0 wasn't a place on a map. It was a place in the mind, and it wouldn't let go. Then came the whispers. At first, soft, unintelligible, just a susurration. Then voices began to form words, names, pleas, screams. Red Haskins, Mrs. Holloway's son. Teenagers from the 1980s. People they had never met, and yet somehow knew. "They're all here," Marlene gasped. "They never left. They're part of it," Jesse said. "Part of the road, the lights, the gas. It's all tied together. It's how it keeps itself alive." The air grew colder, thick with something unseen pressing in. Their hearts raced. Every instinct screamed at them to run. But the path ahead was just more black trees, more shadows. And the lights flared one last time, blinding them before vanishing altogether. They collapsed against a fallen log, shaking. No cars, no road, no headlights. Just the woods, dark and silent. Jesse looked at Marlene. We need to find another road. Any road. We can't stay here." But deep down, he knew that any road that led from mile marker 0 would eventually lead back to it. That the road had a memory, a hunger, and tonight it had already tasted them. Marlene nodded, voice barely a whisper. It's watching, waiting. We can't outrun it." Somewhere deep in the black of the trees, the faintest sound of an engine hummed, and the soft, impossibly high-pitched laugh of a girl echoed through the night. The first thing Jesse noticed was the silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the oppressive stillness that seemed to press against his eardrums. He checked his watch for the 100th time. 11:59. Again, 11:59. He turned to Marlene, whose cigarette had burned down to the filter hours ago, though it should have been seconds. She stared at her phone. Dead. Screen black. Battery still full. "Time's stopped," she whispered, voice trembling. Jesse swallowed hard. No, that's impossible. Impossible, maybe. But Route 117 didn't care about impossibilities. They tried to move, walked, ran, climbed over fallen trees. Nothing changed. The highway appeared behind the trees as if it hadn't moved an inch. Every mile marker they passed, reset. 0 again. The sign blacker, more threatening, glowing faintly in the dark. The forest around them seemed alive. Shadows flickered at the edge of vision. And through it all, the faint hum of an engine that wasn't there. The high-pitched laughter of a girl who should have been gone decades ago. Minutes turned into hours. Or maybe seconds. Jesse couldn't tell. Jesse remembered being a kid in New Jersey. His father shouting, rain smacking the windows. A crash, a scream. He knew he had never experienced this never, but the memory felt too real, too visceral. Marlene stumbled. "I see. Things. People. Not alive. Dead. I don't know." Their eyes. Staring. Watching. She fell to her knees. Jesse grabbed her. "Hey," he said, voice breaking. "We're here. We're alive, okay?" But how could they be alive when time itself had stopped and the world around them had become a trap? The headlights flared in the darkness. Close, steady, unblinking. Jesse and Marlene froze. They weren't just lights anymore. The glow pulsed like a heartbeat, rising and falling. Shadows stretched unnaturally from the edges of the woods. Every tree trunk looked like a hand reaching for them. Jesse whispered, "We have to move, whatever it is. It's learning us." Marlene nodded. Her voice was gone, stolen by the air. The whispering started low and sibilant, then grew louder, forming words, names, shouts, pleas. Red Haskins. Gone, gone. Never leave. They're part of the road, Jesse said quietly. All of them. Every person who ever got stuck here. The whispers layered, forming a cacophony in their minds. Jesse could hear things he hadn't lived, names he'd never known. Marlene wept, hands covering her ears. I don't think we're ever leaving," she stammered. Hours or seconds passed. The trees, the road, even the mile markers seemed to warp. Jesse blinked. The highway bent, curving impossibly. The forest stretched and compressed, and the moon spun in the sky like a flickering lantern. Are we dreaming? Marlene gasped. Jesse shook his head. No, it's worse than a dream. The road. It's alive. And it's feeding. The air shimmered around them. A figure appeared between the trees. A girl in white, her smile wide, eyes blacker than night itself. She lifted her hand in greeting. "Come," she said. Her voice was both everywhere and nowhere. They ran. Branches tore at clothes and skin. Roots snagged feet. Every step forward felt like running in place. The headlights flared behind them, closer now, moving faster than anything that had wheels could move. And then the gas smell returned. Strong, metallic, copper. Jesse gagged, covering his mouth. Marlene stumbled again. Somehow, through the blur, Jesse realized the Ford's engine had started again on its own. And Marlene's Chevy, both cars idling silently, impossibly, as if inviting them back. "They want us in the cars," Jesse said. "It's a trap. Then what do we do?" He had no answer. The world around them shivered. Trees melted into shadows, shadows into smoke, smoke into darkness. Jesse's wristwatch ticked once, then again, then froze. Marlene's phone screen flickered. 11:59, 11:59, 11:59, and the laughter. Constant, echoing, mocking. Jesse realized, in a sick twist of clarity, time doesn't exist here. Not the way humans understood it. Seconds, minutes, hours. They all collapsed into one eternal now, and they were trapped in it. Marlene whispered, voice breaking, "I don't want to die here." "You're not dead," Jesse said, though he didn't fully believe it. "But we're stuck, and it's learning us, watching us." From somewhere deep in the woods, he heard the faint hum of a truck, a whistle of wind, and the soft scrape of tires or something like tires against the asphalt. Then came the headlights, closer than ever. They backed away, hearts hammering. Every instinct screamed to flee, but there was no direction that led away from this road. It bent around them, twisted, impossible, as if reality itself had been rewritten. And the girl appeared again. Her eyes black pits, smile stretched impossibly wide. She raised her hand once more, a beckoning, taunting gesture. Jesse felt his mind begin to crack. Thoughts looped, memories blurred, time skipped in jerks. Marlene's voice echoed, but not in words, only in fear, raw and unfiltered. "You can't leave," the girl said. Jesse felt the edge of panic press him against the bones of the earth. And he knew, finally, that the road was not just a road. It was a prison. Mile marker 0 waited. Always waiting. The night air was thick and heavy, like it had weight. Every leaf, every blade of grass seemed to stretch and sway, even when the wind refused to blow. Jesse and Marlene crouched behind a fallen pine, breathing hard, listening. The headlights appeared again, hovering on the road as if waiting. No engine, no vehicle. Just light, steady and unyielding. "They're back," Marlene whispered. Her hands shook as she gripped the sleeve of Jesse's jacket. Jesse nodded. "And this time, they're following us." The girl appeared in the distance, just beyond the glow. Her white dress shimmered unnaturally, and her eyes glinted black as night. She didn't run. She didn't move like a human. She floated, or perhaps the road itself carried her. They tried moving silently through the woods, ducking under branches, stepping over roots. But the headlights were patient. They didn't speed. They didn't blink. They simply followed. At one point, Jesse tripped over a gnarled root. The flashlight he'd taken from the car rolled across the ground. He reached for it, but the light flickered and went out. When he looked up, the headlights were inches away, impossibly close, reflecting in the trees like giant, unblinking eyes. Marlene grabbed his arm. "We have to run," she hissed. But the road had other plans. The forest seemed alive now, bending and twisting. Branches reached out like hands. The shadows of trees stretched unnaturally toward them. Jesse could see shapes moving in the darkness. Human, not human, something in between. They ran blindly, lungs burning, slipping in mud and leaves. The headlights never faltered. Always there, always watching, always inching closer with a silent patience that felt like malice. And then came the laughter. A soft, high, piercing laugh that echoed from every direction at once. "You hear it?" Marlene screamed. Jesse nodded, heart hammering. "It's all around us." After what felt like hours but could have been minutes, they emerged into a clearing. 2 abandoned cars sat side by side, hers and his, but there was no road leading away. Only trees, darkness, and the black mile marker in the distance. The headlights flared in unison, blinding, filling the clearing. Shadows deepened. The girl stepped forward, slow and deliberate, her grin impossibly wide. "You can't escape," she said, voice both soft and everywhere at once. Jesse realized then that the headlights were not just following. They were hunting, measuring, waiting for fear to take hold. Jesse grabbed Marlene's hand. They ran. Branches tore at them, mud swallowed their feet, and still the headlights advanced silently, gliding across the asphalt like sentient predators. The air was thick with copper, metallic and sharp. Their lungs burned. Time had no meaning. Every glance at their watches, their phones, their dashboard clocks confirmed one terrifying truth. The world outside this road had ceased to exist. And then the girl appeared directly ahead, blocking their path, her dress glowing faintly in the light. Her smile widened further. "Come back," she whispered. Jesse and Marlene skidded to a stop, staring at the figure. It shouldn't have been possible for her to be there. They hadn't slowed down. They hadn't stopped moving. And yet, she was smiling, waiting. From somewhere behind them, the headlights flared once more, blinding and hot. They weren't coming from a vehicle. They were coming from the road itself, solid beams of light with no source, no engine, no sound, just intent. Jesse grabbed a rock, hurled it toward the girl. It passed through her like smoke. He grabbed Marlene's hand. "We have to run into the woods." Off the road. But the headlights flared again, slicing through the trees, turning the forest into a maze of blinding white and black shadows. The road had them trapped. The whispers returned, louder this time, coming from inside their own heads. Names, please, screams. Jesse recognized some from the legends he'd heard in Rockport. Red Haskins, the Holloway boy. Teens from the 80s. "They're all here," Marlene gasped. Her voice shook. "They never left. They're part of this." The road was alive, feeding on their fear, memorizing their steps, their hesitation, their panic. And the girl? She was its avatar, the one it sent to toy with them. Jesse realized something chilling. They weren't just being hunted. They were being studied, trapped. And if the road learned them fully, it would not let them go. Jesse's foot caught a root. He fell, and Marlene's hand slipped from his. The headlights flared instantly, as if sensing weakness. He scrambled to his feet. Behind him, the girl's grin stretched impossibly wider. "Run," she whispered. He did. But the road wasn't just physical. It twisted in his mind, bending space and time. Every attempt to flee forward brought them back near the mile marker. Every step forward was measured, anticipated, recorded. Panic set in. Jesse and Marlene's screams were swallowed by the trees. The road hung silent around them. They reached the clearing again. Same cars, same mile marker, same impossible darkness. The headlights hovered, pulsing like a heartbeat. The girl stood in front of them, waiting, and in the shadows behind her, more shapes began to emerge. Silent figures, half human, half shadow, their eyes reflecting the lights, grinning. Jesse whispered, "We can't escape. Not like this. Not." Alive. Marlene's tears streaked her face. Then what do we do? Jessie swallowed. We fight, or we disappear. The girl tilted her head, and the headlights flared one last time. It was a promise. The clearing was silent, almost unnaturally so. The car's hers and his sat idle, still alive but useless. The mile marker stood like a sentinel, black and sharp under the faint glow of the moon. The headlights hovered behind it, still and patient. Jessie and Marlene faced each other. Words failed. Only fear and exhaustion spoke between them. I think. It's not just a road, Jessie said, voice hoarse. It's a trap, a place where time and reality get eaten. Marlene shook her head. Why? Why would it exist? Jessie pointed toward the mile marker. Look at it. Look at the 0. It's not a number. It's a circle. Infinity. Nothing. It's everything it traps becomes part of it. Part of the road. The girl stepped forward, now fully visible in the dim light. Her eyes were black voids. You can't leave, she said. Her voice was soft, everywhere, echoing in their heads. Behind her, shadows moved. Faces. People. Victims of the road. Their eyes hollow, mouths opening in silent screams. Marlene remembered the stories. Old Rockport legends, whispered warnings. 1963, Red Haskins, kids from the 80s, teenagers gone missing, strange car failures. They were all connected. It's been here, waiting, she said. For anyone who drives past this marker at midnight, it feeds. On fear, on life. Jessie's jaw tightened. And it doesn't just take time. It takes memory, sanity, maybe even the soul. The girl laughed. This time, the sound carried through the clearing, echoing in their skulls. And now, you are mine to learn, to feed, to break. Jessie looked at Marlene. Exhaustion, despair, and something sharper. Resolve. We don't have much time. It's going to trap us completely. We either fight or disappear forever. How? Marlene whispered. We can't outrun it. We've seen that. We can't escape. He pointed to the cars. The road uses the headlights. It uses what it knows. It can't control intent. We have to trick it. Act like we're trapped, but move when it's distracted. We have to break its pattern. Marlene nodded, understanding. Their only chance was to outsmart the road, not outrun it. They waited. The headlights pulsed, steady, waiting for them to panic. Jessie touched the mile marker. Cold, sharp, unnerving. A memory of Red Haskins flickered in his mind, his accident, the blood, the scream. Jessie whispered, now. They ran, not blindly, not panicked. They zigzagged, ducked into the forest, and timed their movement with the girl's step, the pulsing of the lights. The shadows reached for them, but Jessie and Marlene refused to look back. The road shrieked in quiet fury time unspooling, leaves bending unnaturally, the headlights flaring madly, and then, suddenly, silence. They emerged onto a gravel back road, a mile from Route 117. The sun was just beginning to rise. Birds sang, wind rustled through trees, and the real world breathed around them. Marlene collapsed to the ground, crying, laughing, shaking. Jessie dropped beside her, staring at the empty road behind them. The forest was quiet. The mile marker was gone. The headlights vanished. We made it, Marlene said, voice trembling. Jessie shook his head. Not out of it, just out of its immediate reach. It's patient, always patient, and it waits for the next driver who dares pass mile marker 0. They didn't speak for a long time. The weight of the road, the memories of the victims, the knowledge that time itself had been twisted, it lingered. Back in Rockport, life seemed normal. Small town, quarries, harbor, Duncan. But Jessie and Marlene knew better. The road had touched them. It had learned them. Every night, when the wind whispered through the pines, they thought of the headlights. And when clocks froze or a car coughed strangely, they wondered, was it testing them again? One thing was certain, Route 117 and mile marker 0 were alive. And it would never stop waiting. Jessie and Marlene survived. For now, but some roads never let go. Some roads never forgive. The 0 never ended.